Greetings, friends. I'm just back from the burial of Raymond Epperson in Hokes, Bluff, Alabama. 222-mile round trip. And I'm going to tell you about the burial. I have some video from the burial. And then, for those of you that have tuned in for Nightcast, we'll do the intro to Nightcast, and I'll cover the news stories from today. I got back a little bit late after a 220-mile round trip. That was where the events I was planning on attending were delayed because of some extremely heavy rain. And for the burial, you know, they had to do the burial a little bit ahead of schedule to beat the rain. And then we had to wait for more than an hour for extremely heavy rainfall to subside enough where we could get out and then do a little graveside. And so let me take you with some of the video. I was very happy to learn I was able to push some of our video from my smartphone over onto our video player. And let's see if it works as well as I think it did. Here's a little video from on the way up there. Very beautiful, beautiful traffic scenery on the way just outside of Birmingham. It's all mostly just trees on both sides of you the entire trip up until you get past Gadsden, and then a city called Rainbow, very beautiful, and then Hokes Bluff. And once we got there to Hokes Bluff, here's a picture of the, let me bring this full screen for you. Here's a picture of the cemetery where Raymond was buried. Raymond Epperson, whom I worked with in the Ambassador Auditorium for a little while. And good guy, that Raymond, effervescent guy, uncanny, warm wit, most of you know. But now at this point, I'm in my vehicle after the funeral director from Tennessee. Ray's funeral was held in Jasper, Tennessee this morning. And then the funeral director drove Ray's body and casket down here to Alabama. Now it's still raining while I'm in the car here. I think you can hear the rain if I turn the volume up a little bit. And I'm just waiting on that rain to subside. Now there's a view from the car right next to the roadside there. And now what I did was I read from 1 Thessalonians 14, and then I decided, it'd be good since nobody else was up there except me to do that graveside thing. I thought, well, let me record that. So the rain is now light enough at this point. I've got my video camera in one hand, my Bible in the other hand, and my coat leaning over my Bible because there's still just a little bit of rain still coming when I read from 1 Thessalonians 4, a little graveside thing that many of you who knew Ray, who loved Ray, or just want to know about another brother in our church who we can expect to see in the first resurrection, perhaps you'll get something out of these few verses from 1 Thessalonians 4 that I read graveside. And I'm going to the video now, and I'll let the video pick up from here. I'm going to read graveside here, Ray Epperson, from 1 Thessalonians 4 and verses 13 through 18. But I would not have you to be ignorant, brethren, concerning them which, as Ray Epperson here, Raymond Epperson, are asleep, that you sorrow not even as others which have no hope. For if we believe that Jesus died and rose again, even so, them which also sleep in Jesus will God bring with him. For this we say unto you by the word of the Lord, that we which are alive and remain unto the coming of the Lord shall not prevent nor precede them which are asleep.
For the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trump of God. And the dead in Christ shall rise first. Oh, Raymond, if I and others with me remain alive until Christ's coming, you get to precede us. You get to go up first, and there's just one favor I would ask. If for some reason Christ says, "No, I'm not bringing Stephen Gilbert up there. He fell a little short," maybe you can put in a last-minute good word for me, Raymond. "Hey, I worked with Stephen at the Ambassador Auditorium. Listen, I can take care of him. I know how to control that guy, God. Go ahead, bring him up. He'll be all right." You know? He did a lot of evil, but he repented of a lot of it. He'll be okay. Bring him on up. For the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trump of God, and the dead in Christ shall rise first. Then which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air, and so shall we ever be with the Lord. Wherefore, brethren, comfort one another with these words. Raymond, we'll see you again, old buddy. And those of us who remain alive until Christ return, well, you will precede us in meeting him in the air. Hope you turn around and wave us on up. Come on up, come on up. Yay, hey, and applaud our coming up to meet you there, Ray. This is where Ray will be during the Great Tribulation, in a place of safety here in Hokes, Bluff, Alabama. Hope that those of you viewing this video will also be in a place of safety during the next major event to happen in prophecy, the Great Tribulation. Until it's over, Raymond Epperson, may you rest in peace, my dear friend, our dear brother.
Okay, friends, and from there I just zoom back, I think I do a little bit, where you can see the tree he's planted near there in the cemetery, kind of next to the roadside, and so there we are. There's from today the burial of Ray Epperson in Hokes Bluff, Alabama, this afternoon, Monday afternoon, June 30, 2014. Ray was 57 years old, died after a long bout with cancer. He was buried in a cemetery plot, the Hardy, Hardy, family plot. I believe that people related to Ray, that they've had that plot for a long time. It's at a Baptist church in Hokes Bluff, Alabama, the First Baptist Church up there. And then after that, I got back in my car for the return of the round trip, 111 miles back to Bessemer. And so I wanted to share that with you at the opening of tonight's video, friends, because I'm going to put this on the usual nightcast video that I do, and give you a quick rundown of the news, a real short rendition of today's news. So for those of you who normally tune in for nightcast, I'm going to go with my introduction to that. So you'll see what you don't normally see. We usually run this off the air. You'll see a 10-second countdown, then we'll start tonight's news. Those of you that were just tuning in for Ray's burial video, if you haven't seen Nightcast before, I invite you to stick around, watch the news from today related to the Bible and prophecy, and maybe it's something you'll want to tune into nightly. So a little salute to Raymond and his burial up there in Hokes Bluff, Alabama. And let's cut away now for today's Nightcast program.
Nightcast. Stephen Lloyd Gilbreth brings you the current news from the world today and how it relates to Bible prophecy. Understanding the end-time events leading to the peaceful world tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, Stephen Lloyd Gilbreth.
Okay, greetings, friends, and welcome to this June 2014 edition of Nightcast. Our first story tonight opens with a green fireball meteor. Only friends, for some reason, I'm having a problem. Oh, I know what happened. Some of these are just a little bit out of order after I showed you the burial from today. But I believe we have that right here. A green fireball meteor seen over the UK has been captured on camera by an observatory in Devon. The bull-eyed meteor was seen in the West Country, Wales, and the West Midlands at 3:04 Greenwich Mean Time. The fireball is reported to have been green in color and bright enough to cast shadows. It was captured by two special meteor cameras at the Norman Lockyer Observatory at Sidmouth in Devon. At the Lockyer Observatory at Sidmouth in Devon. It's only 11 seconds long. It's going to go by kind of quickly, friends, so watch quickly. Here we go. All right, as I said, it was kind of quick. A West Midlands, maybe we'll back that up and show it again in a moment. A West Midlands police traffic officer saw the fireball while traveling on the M42 in England. It was filmed by the car's onboard closed-circuit television. An eyewitness in Cardiff described the meteor as spectacular. It's reported to have broken into several pieces as it entered into Earth's atmosphere. And let's just back it up and see if we can play it here for you one more time. Watch closely. Here it comes. Okay, and the police officer got that on their closed-circuit television camera as they were traveling. Friends, from Israel, the three Israeli teenagers who went missing earlier this month in the West Bank have been found. They've been found dead. Two of them aged 16, one 19-year-old, were last seen at a junction near Hebron as they hitchhiked home. Israel had accused Hamas of abducting the three teens, which the Palestinian militant group repeatedly denied. Kevin Connolly has this report.
From the moment Naftali Frankel, Gilad Shair and Ayel Yefrach went missing, Israel prayed for their safety and feared for their lives. The Israeli army staged huge security sweeps across the villages and towns of the West Bank looking for the missing teenagers. At least 5 Palestinians died in rioting sparked by those operations, and hundreds were arrested. As the searches continued, we spoke last week to Naftali Frankel's aunt, and even then, while the talk was of hope, the anxiety was overwhelming.
It's an innocent kid, 3 innocent kids, that all they were doing is going home from school. And we haven't seen them since. They're us, they're part of us, and we miss them. We worry, as we said, what they're going through. It's hard.
This evening, those huge military operations began to focus on farmland beside a busy main road that runs through the heart of the West Bank. And as darkness fell, came the news Israelis had feared. The boys' bodies had been found hidden in a shallow pit in a field.
The mission is ongoing, and we are putting all of our effort to bring the perpetrators of this attack to justice, and we will continue to do so until we complete our mission.
As the news spread, a small group of settlers and their supporters began to gather near the scene. There will be a demand in Israel not just for the kidnappers to be caught, but for some kind of security response. In the dark fields here, a difficult and delicate search is underway for clues as to how and when the boys died. And a country which for 2.5 weeks has been united in hope will tonight be united in grief. Tonight, grieving friends and relatives gathered at the home of Naftali Frankel. There are bigger political and security issues here, but at the heart of it all is the private grief of the families of 3 teenage boys. Kevin Connolly, BBC News, Jerusalem.
And friends, the thing has potential for increasing the strife and conflict over in the Middle East greatly, because the murder of the 3 Israeli teenagers is being accused as the responsibility of the State of Israel, according to Dr. Mustafa Barghouti of the Palestinian National Initiative Party. Friends, I'm playing you this video because I want you to see what the Palestinian side is saying in relation to this. And, oh, sorry about that. It looks like we had our mic volume down a little bit. I'm playing you this video because I want you to see what the Palestinian side is saying about this, which I'll have more to say after you hear Dr. Barghouti.
First of all, I think the main person who's responsible for the tragic death that happened is Mr. Netanyahu himself. He sent these boys as illegal settlers to an illegal settlement, and he's also responsible for the tragic death of more than 10 Palestinians so far who were killed by his army, including 3 children.
So you're suggesting you're suggesting these young teenagers had it coming, are you? Because they were somewhere geographically.
They should not have been in illegal settlements, which are considered illegal by international law and a violation of international law. That's what all countries of the world are saying. And Mr. Netanyahu should have protected them and not sending them to these places.
But Mr.
More than that, he is now retaliating, and he wants to retaliate without even bringing a single proof that any Palestinian was responsible for their death.
But are you not
this
suggesting...
is very strange.
Are you not suggesting, Dr. Barghouti, then, that any settler is fair game? President Netanyahu did not kill these people himself.
I don't like anybody to be killed, but I am saying that no security or real peace will be available either to Palestinians or Israelis unless the Israeli military occupation is ended.
Friends, it's interesting, is it not, that news is beginning to come out because of that former Jesuit who worked in the Vatican, who's now exposing the fact that from secret documents in the Vatican, which that former Jesuit got to read and see, the Vatican had a great part to do with the Palestinians, the Arabs from long ago, more than 1,000 years ago, when the Vatican gave them resources to help the Arab generals run out the tribes of Judah, the Jewish people. We're talking going back to around 500-600 AD now, and to kill the Jews and to kill Christians there. And the deal was the Pope would build up the Arabs and promote Muhammad and helped create the Quran, which is copied a lot of stuff from the Bible, but they changed some very important things. One of the most significant things they changed was which son Abraham then took up on top of the mountain to offer as a sacrifice. The Quran says it was Ishmael. And of course, as many of you know, the Bible, which is the true Word of God, reveals that it was Isaac who Abraham took up to sacrifice at God's command and instruction to Abraham. And it was to the seed of Isaac that the land of promise, the Middle East, much of the Middle East was promised to the offspring of Abraham. And the Vatican was behind promoting this lie about Ishmael and helped create a holy book, quote unquote, called the Quran, that's got a lie in it, saying it was Ishmael that Abraham took up to sacrifice. And the Arabs did a lot better. Palestinians, Arabs, did a lot better than the Vatican thought they would. And when it came time for the Vatican to say, okay, now that you've run everybody out of Jerusalem, that we wanted out of there, the Jews and the Christians, okay, we want Jerusalem. The generals did so well, and they were so on top of things, they said, sorry, Pope, we're keeping that for ourselves, and they built the Dome of the Rock there. And so the Jews were there, according to this history from inside the Vatican. The Jewish people were in what's now called Israel and Jerusalem back around 500-600 AD, when the Vatican supported the Arabs to kill them and push them out of there. Now, the Jews are back there again, and now the Palestinians, they want them out of there again. And interestingly, all along, the Vatican has never given up its desire to have Jerusalem. And that history goes back for hundreds of years, even goes back recently in the decade or two before the current Pope, who's in office and has been over there. And you can see the telltale signs that the current Pope would like to have Jerusalem too. All right, well, we've got more news tonight, and friends, the news relates to a chart that we often use, primarily this part of the chart that shows 6 of the 7 seals from the book of Revelation, 4 of them that have been active since the time of Jesus Christ. And when the 5th one begins, that's as Mr. Herbert W. Armstrong said, the 5th seal is the next major event to happen in prophecy. It'll be the time of, it's called Jesus Christ, plain language, he called it the Great Tribulation. Revelation depicts it as a time of great martyrdom. It'll also be the time of World War III, and it'll be the time of the resurrection of the old Holy Roman Empire in its 7th and final head. And, you know, many times I've zoomed in on certain parts of the chart that show how during the lifetime of Mr. Herbert Armstrong, in 1936, when Mussolini invaded Ethiopia, and the newspaper headlines kind of buried a little bit, but still headlines proclaimed how Mussolini claimed to have revived the Holy Roman Empire and be the new head, which made him the 6th head, as you count the heads in the events of prophecy. I'd almost like to go into that tonight, but I've got several more news stories, and I had the intro at the beginning. I want to keep this kind of short. We do that from time to time. I did that a little bit last night. Those that would like to see more on that, you can go back to our archive or stay with us. We'll be covering this again when there's a little lull in news. But tonight we've got more stories, a few more stories that I want to cover, and then I want to try to hold this down to a half hour tonight, or close to that if I can, because after a after over 200 mile round trip today, I want to keep this in a hot studio. I want to keep this short. Friends, next piece of news relates to the Middle East. Fresh clashes have been reported between jihadist-led Sunni rebels and government forces around the Iraqi city of Tikrit. The violence comes a day after the Islamic State in Iraq and the Levant, ISIS or ISIL, announced the creation of a caliphate. The turbulent situation means the government in Baghdad is under ever-increasing pressure to try and prevent the breakup of the country, as Jeremy Bowen reports.
ISIS crosses borders, and in the land it says will be its Islamic caliphate, it wants to abolish them. These were jihadist fighters in Aleppo in Syria swearing allegiance to their new caliph, the leader of ISIS, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. This is an ISIS propaganda video, blowing up border posts between Iraq and Syria and claiming It's smashing the Sykes-Picot Agreement, the deal imposed by Britain and France almost a century ago that's the basis for the borders of the modern Middle East.
You can see this is the so-called border of Sykes-Picot. Alhamdulillah, we don't recognize it and we will never recognize it. Inshallah, this is not the first border we will break. Inshallah, we will break other borders also, but we start with this, inshallah.
The Syrian war is reinforcing and turbocharging the sectarian fight in Iraq. This video in Syria was taken by a 20-year-old Iraqi Shia Muslim fighter called Ali. He says he spent 45 days fighting to defend a Shia shrine in Damascus. Now back home here in Baghdad, he's in a Shia militia to fight Sunni Muslim ISIS, known in Arabic as Daesh.
It's the same thing in Iraq. We have Daesh, they have Daesh. It's all the fault of Israel, America, Saudi and Qatar targeting Muslim sacred shrines. Wherever they send us, we will go to fight, even in Mosul.
Ali was buying supplies on a street in Baghdad that specializes in military equipment. The Americans spent billions of dollars on the Iraqi security forces. But now Western advice to them is not to risk entering the towns captured by ISIS. At Abu Hanifa, a revered Sunni mosque in Baghdad, they said the crisis was scaring people away from iftar, their meal breaking the daily Ramadan fast. And for them, the insurgency against Iraq's Shia-led state is not just Sunni ISIS, Daesh, against the rest.
They call them Daesh, but mostly they are fighters from tribes defending themselves against injustice, oppression and arrests. Daesh are extremists. They are not part of my religion. These tribes are just defending their rights.
The expectation here in Baghdad is that ISIS will continue and will renew its military campaign during the month of Ramadan. But the declaration of the caliphate shows that it's also trying to keep the political initiative. That might change this week as Iraq's parliament meets here in the capital. But if those politicians can't create not just a sense of national unity, but a national survival plan, then the chances are that this country will continue to break up. Jeremy Bowen, BBC News, Baghdad.
Thank you, Jeremy. And friends, if I can do this without crashing our video player, I want to go back to a story I parked right at the beginning and close with that. The European elections in May saw big gains for protest parties and fringe groups on both the political left and right. But will that change the nature of the European Parliament?
So after the drama last week involving the nomination of Jean-Claude Juncker as the next president of the European Commission, this week attention shifts to another European institution. We're in the European Parliament. Nigel Farage is just over here talking to some of his colleagues. And this desk over here is where new MEPs come and pick up their office keys. There are hundreds of new MEPs in this Parliament, and trust me, finding a way around this place can be pretty complicated. And this is where MEPs pick up their voting cards, and the first thing this Parliament's got to do is elect a president of its own, the Speaker of Parliament, if you like. And guess what? It's going to be the same guy that it was last time, the German socialist Martin Schulz. The two main political groups in the Parliament have stitched it up between them.
And friends, that was the showing you the new session for Euro MPs, which has begun. That was the BBC's Chris Morris offering a guide to the directly elected parliamentary institution of the European Union. We'll have more on that Sunday night. Wait a minute, tonight's Monday. We'll have more on that for you tomorrow night. We're out of time for tonight. Thanks for joining me. A salute to the friends and family of Ray Epperson. If you missed that at the opening today, we showed the burial from Hokes, Bluff. And friends, God willing, the Creek Don't Rise will be back again tomorrow night, Tuesday evening, with the day's current news related to the Bible and prophecy here on Nightcast. Until next time, this is your host, Stephen Lloyd Gilbreth, saying good night, friends.
You have been watching Nightcast with Stephen Lloyd Gilbreth. Nightcast can be seen Sunday through Thursday nights here on cogtv.org. Tonight's program is also available anytime on demand in the cogtv.org video archive.